This Thanksgiving started with a hard-earned feast, but my son refused to eat and wouldn't tell me why. Later, his heartbreaking confession revealed how one family member had shattered his trust and ours. Life isn't easy, but everyone does their best to make it work. My husband Mark and I try to focus on what really matters, creating a happy home for our 8-year-old son Ethan. This year we were determined to give him a Thanksgiving to remember, even though money's been tight. We were also hosting our mother, so I wanted it to be nice. Luckily, we managed to stretch our budget and pulled off a feast. The turkey came out golden and juicy, the mashed potatoes were fluffy, and Ethan's favorite pumpkin pie was chilling in the fridge. I was proud of what we'd accomplished despite rising prices. Everything seemed fine until dinner. Ethan sat at the table unusually quiet while staring at his plate. That kid often bounces with excitement for Thanksgiving. "Sweetie," I said gently, trying not to sound worried. "You're not eating. Is everything okay?" He shrugged, barely looking up. "I'm not hungry," he mumbled. Mark shot me a questioning look across the table. I shrugged back, unsure what was going on. Our son was not the kind of kid to hold back if something was bothering him. But with my mom at the table, maybe he didn't feel like talking. She's not exactly the warmest presence. I decided not to push it during dinner. "All right," I said softly, giving his hand a little squeeze. "But let me know if that changes, okay?" Ethan nodded, but the look on his face stayed with me. Something was wrong. After dinner, my son skipped dessert. Skipped dessert. That's like the sun deciding not to rise. Meanwhile, my mom didn't notice or didn't care. She stayed for another hour, and for some reason, she nitpicked the meal we'd had tirelessly saved for and worked so hard to make. She complained about the fact that we made mac and cheese from a box, which is Ethan's favorite, or used to be, I guess. Apparently, we should have bought the good cheese and real macaroni from the store, considering Thanksgiving was such a special occasion. At one point, tears pricked my eyes because this had been such a sacrifice. I wanted to yell that between her and Ethan's strange attitude, Thanksgiving had been ruined, but I bit my tongue, nodding to appease her. When she finally left, I headed straight for my son's room. Mark followed, just as worried as I was. Ethan was curled up on his bed, hugging his pillow. "Sweetie," I said softly, sitting beside him. "What's wrong, honey? You've been so quiet today. You didn't eat your favorite mac and cheese, and you didn't want pumpkin pie." He looked at me with teary eyes. "Grandma told me the truth about you," he whispered. My stomach dropped. "What truth?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He hesitated, then blurted out, "She said you and Dad are losers. She said we're poor and that's why we can't have a real Thanksgiving." My body froze, but my eyes widened. I could almost the sound of my heart breaking into a million pieces, like a vase thrown deliberately at the wall. "When did your grandmother say these things?" I finally asked in a whisper. "Last week, when she picked me up from school," he replied as the tears wet his pillow. Mark knelt next to me, and I saw his jaw tightening. "Ethan," he said gently, "Grandma shouldn't have said that to you." Our son sniffled, and his small hands gripped the blanket tighter. "She also said Dad's lazy and doesn't make enough money, and that you're not good at taking care of me." I could barely breathe. Mark started rubbing Ethan's back and spoke in a calm but firm voice. "Ethan, none of that is true. Your mom and I work hard to give you everything we can because we love you so much." "But she said we're not a real family," our son continued, "because we don't have the stuff other people have." "Listen to me, sweetie," I said hoarsely. "Grandma is wrong. What makes a family real isn't money or stuff, it's love, and we have so much of that." Mark chimed in, nodding. "Son, people can and will say hurtful things, even people we love. But your mother's right. What matters is how we treat each other, and I think we're the luckiest family in the world because we're together and healthy." "Really?" Ethan asked. "Yes," Mark and I said in unison, and then I continued. "Listen, baby, we're not going to invite Grandma over for a while or ask her to pick you up. We all need a break from her, I think." Ethan bit his lip for a second before his tiny smile emerged. "All good now?" Mark asked, tilting his head. Our son lifted his upper body slightly and looked at us expectantly. "Can I have some pumpkin pie now?" Mark and I released a relieved sigh. We went out to the kitchen, and Ethan acted like he'd never eat again. He devoured his mac and cheese, a bit of the turkey, and even some green beans before inhaling his piece of pumpkin pie. He fell asleep on the couch a second after he finished, and we carried him to his room. Once we were inside our bedroom, Mark and I agreed on our next steps almost immediately. He was so angry at my mother that there was no other choice. The next morning I woke up ready but nervous. I called my mom over and she arrived, looking smug and carrying an air of superiority that I'd ignored most of my life. I just couldn't let it go now that it had affected my son. Why did you invite me over? We saw each other last night, and I definitely don't want leftovers from that meal. She chuckled without humor, sitting down on our armchair and not even saying hello to Mark. Her comment was perfect because it assured me that I was making the right choice, so I didn't waste more time. Ethan told us what you said to him last week, I began, about Mark and me and our family. Her eyebrows shot up. Oh, that? I was just being honest, she said, waving a hand dismissively. He needs to understand how the real world works. Mark's voice was sharp. Telling an 8-year-old that his parents are losers is your idea of honesty? She rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. I was just preparing him for reality. He needs to know life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. What he needs is love and support, I snapped, not your judgmental comments. Do you have any idea how much you hurt him? Did you even notice he wasn't eating last night? I wasn't trying to hurt him, she said, looking annoyed. But really, it's just the truth. You can't provide enough. He should have more. Needs more? Mark said, standing and pacing the living room. We work hard to give Ethan a good life. All he needs is us by his side. You don't get to tear our family down just because you think we don't measure up to your standards. Mom's face turned red. Things wouldn't be this way if Amma had listened, she retorted and turned her angry eyes to me. If you had married the man I wanted for you, none of this would have happened. I saw that my husband was about to explode, so I stood and spoke first. That's enough. Get out of my house. Until you can show us all the respect we deserve, we're cutting you off. Her jaw tightened. What? You can't do that? Yes, we can, Mark said, walking to our front door and opening it wide. We might be losers, but this is our house, and we've had enough of you. Mom looked at me one more time, but I only raised my eyebrows expectantly. With a huff, she grabbed her purse and stormed out. Mark slammed the door behind her and barked a laugh. I didn't, but I felt a weight off my shoulders. Since then, our son has been thriving. It's a little hard not being able to ask Mom to pick Ethan up, but we arranged a carpool schedule with other moms. Later, on an evening close to Christmas, I confirmed that we'd made a great choice while baking cookies from a box mix. Ethan looked up at me with a big smile. Mom, I think our family is the best, he said. My throat felt too tight as I smiled back. Me too, buddy. Me too. I don't know if my mom will ever make her way back into our lives, but so far she hasn't even tried. Her pride and toxicity don't allow her to see the big picture or what truly matters in life. My advice is, protect your kids, even if you have to pull away from other family members. The holidays should be joyful, not a source of stress and tears. Do what's best for your household.